Welcome in. It is the final drive. We're presented by Auto Owners Insurance. Delighted to have you with us. Dave Refson, full house.
Yeah.
Ashley Addington, Yogi Roth, Marcel Reese, Anthony Herron. The gang's all here.
The gang's all here. Everybody's looking dapper tonight, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
You look all right.
So you got all your wardrobes going on, Double A. You look pretty good, too.
Second outfit of the day.
Thank you very much
Wardrobe change,
for
long
telling
day,
everyone.
long day.
Are we going to talk about what happened in Madison, or do you guys want to keep talking about wardrobe?
No, let's jump around. Let's jump around a little bit.
Let's get on the field now.
Is this the first time, by the way, that jump around almost backfired? I can't remember. Melvin Gordon in the house, Oregon and Wisconsin. This was a big one. Dylan Gabriel's pass tipped here, and the pick, Nizier.
Tips and overthrows.
Green.
Yes, got to get those, man. Give them to me.
So that was Gabriel's fourth red zone interception of the season, and it just felt like maybe this was not going to be their night. Over a minute left in the half. Braden Locke to Vinny Anthony.
Locked and loaded. Able to put that one on the money. Went with the deep ball behind the Ducks. You haven't seen that too much this season.
43-yard pickup to get in the red zone. A couple plays later, Locke to Will Pauling. Pauling actually left the game later, which was unfortunate for the Badgers. The Ducks were down 7, open up the fourth quarter, but right after jump around, they go for it on 4th and 9. And this is a play that may have changed the entire outcome of the game, Yogi.
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson, the crew was smiling and smirking on the sideline amid that song. It led right down to this, and it was a touchdown scoring drive.
Jordan James punches it in from 11 yards out. We are tied at 13. 4 minutes to go. Gabriel scrambling. 8-yard pickup. Hunter Wohler actually would leave the game after a collision on this play. Huge loss.
Friendly fire there. Yeah.
12 tackles in that game, and he is the heart and soul of that defense. So the Ducks would pick up a field goal to take a 3-point lead. Next drive for the Badgers, 4th and 9. And Braden Locke overthrows everybody, so that's not going to get it done. Oregon lining up for the field goal on 4th down. At least it looks like they are, Yogi.
No, Dan Lanning said, no, I'm going to go for it totally here. Oh, about a yard, maybe a foot short. And every Oregon Duck fan was feeling a little nervous.
It's fun when they work, not so much when they don't.
But you know what? It's fun when you have a guy like Mateo Uiagalelei. Mateo Uiagalelei. You better get his name right, because this man makes the game-sealing interception for the Ducks. Dan Lanning fired up as he should be. 11-0 for just the second time in school history. Fewest points in a regular season win since 2010. Telly Hughes with the winners.
We're a resilient team, right? And it takes everybody on that team, everybody on that sideline matter tonight.
Each week, you know your opponent's going to give you your best shot. How is this team able to take it and continue to find a way to come out on top?
We just got to keep going to work, right? And I don't think tonight was our best, but we were resilient, and when it mattered most, we got it done.
Wisconsin's defense held your offense out of the end zone for 3 quarters, but it was your defense that came up with the play that mattered the most. What can you say about your team coming up with the big plays when you need it?
Well, I mean, that last play on defense is a great example of how those guys played all night, right? Attacking the ball, and eventually it came down to a takeaway. So big-time props to those guys going out there and executing.
And finally, you are 1 game away from completing an undefeated regular season. I'm sure this is something you all wanted to be or where you wanted to be, but what was the key ingredient to being here right now?
Just focusing on the next day. I'm not worried about a week from today. I'm worried about the next play, the next moment, the next opportunity for us to get better.
Dylan, what does a win like this say about the character of this team?
People respond, and I think you just look at a team that knows how to win, and something that we've been building from the first game, and just shout out to our defense, the way they play, special teams, and, offense, the way to continue to keep fighting. So I'm proud of them and just proud of how we all came together.
You know each week you're going to get your opponent's best shot. How does this team continue to find a way to come out on top?
Keep getting better, and winning's contagious. It's a culture thing and a thing that, you either have it or you don't. And I'm proud of these guys and proud of how they kept fighting. But at the end of the day, a W on the scoreboard is the main thing.
Yeah. Wisconsin's defense, they were playing well all night long. How were you able to finally figure them out in the fourth quarter and get into the end zone?
Yeah, just got to have it, situations and guys that we trust with the ball in their hands. But more importantly, you got to make plays in big-time moments. And I think you saw that towards the end of the game on both offense, defense, and special teams.
And finally, how does it feel to be exactly where you hoped you would be after the first 11 games? You guys are 11-0, got a chance to finish the regular season undefeated.
Feels good, but we're not done, and we got a lot more ahead of us. But we'll go into the bye week, get better, get some bodies back, but more importantly, just look at this game and see how we can get better. So we're excited.
Dillon Gabriel just so calm, cool, and collected. There was a moment that the cameras captured on the sideline during jump around where everybody was jumping around, and Dillon was he had this like laser intensity. Yeah. And I just think about Oregon, and when you have a special season, which Oregon is having, and you do what they are doing and what they want to do, you're going to have games like this where you're going to be down and you're going to have to find a way. So, Anthony, as you look at this game as a whole, what's your biggest takeaway?
The way that this Oregon defense, I mean, there were a couple of moments early in the season where we did see the defense look human, I suppose, and we've just continued to watch them grow throughout the year here, especially that defensive front. It was another game without Jordan Birch, and so you don't have one of the best defensive linemen in America, one of the most versatile playmakers in the country. But still, this is a D-line with Derek Harmon, Mateo Uiagalelei, these guys, even Bryce Betcher at the second level as a linebacker. They've got guys within that front seven that just make life difficult for every opponent. And when Wisconsin can't run the football consistently, then you have to count on a passing attack that ends up looking kind of inconsistent. And that, to me, is one of the things that told the tale.
I think a lot of times when you're talking about undefeated teams with big aspirations, when they get challenged, they can react, right? Mm-hmm. Whether that's arguing on the sideline, whether that's pointing fingers. As Dillon Gabriel just referenced, they just responded. This is an extremely mature group. And I just go to Dan Lanning. The number one thing he works on is making sure this group is connected. So offense, not having a great day. What did the defense do? Just rise up. What do special teams do? Make critical field goals. I just think this is a steady team. And when you are at the top, it is so uncomfortable sometimes. And they have found a way, like you said, just to take the next step and the next step. And they're one of the most physical teams in America. Yeah. And they've got a Heisman candidate quarterback, in my opinion. Like, he didn't have a moment, but he had a conversion, right? He's led a team undefeated every week. And that, I just think, doesn't get enough play around the country. That's what the Ducks have done.
And one went away from finishing the regular season undefeated. They get a bye. Then they take on a Washington team that kept them out of the CFP last year. Mm-hmm. So, they might have a little revenge on their mind. Marcel, what about the Badgers? I mean, certainly the defense played well enough to win. They still haven't beaten a ranked team under Luke Fickell. Again, it's the number one team in the nation, right, and you take them right down to the wire. What do you make of this from the Badgers?
Yeah, we're looking at a Wisconsin team with Luke Fickell in his second year at Wisconsin, and there are no participation prizes at the end of the day. Don't get me wrong here. But here, Wisconsin, when you are overmatched, you have to give them your best shot. And to hold an explosive Oregon offense to under 20 points is a huge deal. They just couldn't get that offense going and the passing attack going to score enough points. But there's something optimistic about the way they played this Oregon team. And you heard Luke Fickell at the end in his presser. He wasn't happy. He knew there was more meat left on the bone there, and he has to try and figure out how to get this Wisconsin Badger team over the hump.
Got to win one of the last two, Nebraska and Minnesota, trying to keep the second longest consecutive bowl streak in Big Ten history intact. We'll see whether they can do that, starting with the Huskers next week. Meanwhile, how about the friendly confines of Wrigley Field? We're better for some college football. A couple Chicagoans suited up for their respective teams, Carnell Tate and Jack Lausch, and they shine for their respective teams. As both sides getting ready for the fourth game Northwestern has ever played at Wrigley Field. Pick it up in the second quarter, and there is the aforementioned Mr. Lausch. Northwestern on top 7-0. They were the first team all year to hold OSU scoreless in the first quarter, but that's not good there, Marcel.
No, not good at all. When you are playing an Ohio State team like that, you cannot make mistakes, especially when you're backed up.
And Northwestern thinking, couldn't it have just been blocked through the end zone? Instead, it went out at the one. Quinshawn Judkins takes it in. Ohio State on top 14-7. Will Howard here to Carnell Tate.
And to be able to make this grab going full extension, Carnell Tate right over the goal line, able to make that grab, one of a couple of touchdowns he had in the game.
He was impressive, as was Jeremiah Smith.
Every single time out. And the ball's in there. You just got to stand up. Is he going to catch it? What's he going to do? Of course he's going to catch it. Yep. And then he's going to lead to an explosive play. What a season he has had on display again this afternoon.
That was his fifth reception of 50 yards or longer, far and away the most in the Big Ten. You saw him get taped up there. He would come back in. Howard to Tate again. Second touchdown of the game for the local product. Ohio State on top 28-7. How about our buddy Corey Wooten?
Let's go, Woot. Take me. Well, okay. He apparently doesn't know the words, so we're going to make sure we teach it to him.
Lau Shear sacked by Sonny Styles. Just 84 second-half yards for the Wildcats as Ohio State wins it 31-7. Brooke Fletcher got the post-game reaction.
31 and unanswered points. What do you make of the way your team responded here today?
Yeah, I thought they did a nice job in the first quarter, kind of controlling the game. And then I thought, again, like we talked about, we got the turnover on special teams, and then we sort of controlled, the second quarter, third quarter, and would have liked to see us finish that fourth quarter out a little bit better. But I think it felt like we did what we had to do. Great to see Buckeye Nation here at Wrigley Field. I thought there was an unbelievable crowd today supporting our team, so that gave us a bunch of juice, and now it's on to next week.
How did being back, competing in this cool environment, right? How did that fuel your energy and your performance today?
I feel my energy a lot, especially me. The biggest thing with me being back home is in front of my family. They get to see me play for the first time since freshman year. And a lot of them more came than the usual, so that fueled me a lot.
Disappointed in the result, not going to accept the result. Playing an opponent like Ohio State, the margins are ultra thin. There's some things in the first half that, gave us an opportunity to be in the game, be in a position that we wanted to be. And then some things that unraveled there in the second quarter, in the middle eight, at the beginning of the third quarter that if you expect to be, in the game against a team like Ohio State, can't happen.
Singing Yogi's tune there, Mr. Middle Eight here.
Oh, I like a little middle eight.
Yogi Roth. When Ohio State had the loss to Oregon and then the close game against Nebraska, there was a lot of hand-wringing about this run game, and this is the third straight game now, over 170 rushing yards. It feels like they've gotten it going again.
There's an energy that the Rock is being run with from those guys from Columbus. The offensive line deserves a lot of credit for that. And, of course, we've known about the talents that Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson bring to the table. We're seeing it as pass receivers. We're seeing it as lead blockers for each other. Sometimes they're in the backfield together with the way they're running it. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and this run game is special, the way they run the ball. And some people from the outside look in and say, well, they don't have a 100-yard rusher, but they have two 75-yard rushers, and they have playmakers all across the board on this roster. But these two runners both run with a sense of physicality that just excites you about the game of football. They finish every run, and they have incredible creativity with Chip Kelly calling those plays, whether it's a zone scheme, whether it's his gap scheme. It's really fun to watch, Yokes.
Add in the legs of Will Howard, and it's just a challenge. And I think in this game, it was a great example that to beat Ohio State, you've got to be perfect. Northwestern, the game plan, give them props. I mean, they had their opportunities, didn't make the plays when they needed to. I think a big standout for me was the defense. The defensive line just continues to show up, wreak havoc. This team, they're trying to leave no doubt, right? They left no doubt after the first quarter. They were the better team on the field. And I think around the country, they easily look like a CFP caliber team.
Shout out to the O-line, too.
Yes, sir.
Justin Fry.
There you go.
That's right.
But to your point on the defense, I think we could spend more time. I know we can't because I'm being told that we could go to break. But
in theory, we could.
In theory, if I listened to the voice in my head, I would say they were about to go to break. But I will just point out that since that Oregon loss, Ohio State's defense has given up 2 touchdowns, 2 total touchdowns. Wow. They have 1 to Nebraska and 1 today to Northwestern. So they are the real deal. We got much.
Penn State and Purdue. Nittany Lions coming in ranked 4th in the country, and a guy who's had a ton to do with that is Tyler Warren. Andy Kolnicki's had fun lining him up all over the field this season, and the fun continued in West Lafayette, Marcel, as he was the Swiss Army knife in this one.
You gotta love a utility player who can catch the ball and go up and get it in the red zone across a DB, linebacker, and a safety. And here he is lining up at quarterback, throwing to their quarterback, and then catches the ball and no one in front of him for another huge explosive for the Penn State Nittany Lions. But not only that, gets behind the quarterback and takes it himself and runs for a huge gain, a 44-yard rushing touchdown. He does everything, so Swiss Army Knife is the perfect nickname.
190 all-purpose yards for him. Nittany Lions on top 28-3. At that point, Drew Aller looking for Harrison Wallace. Got him wide open. Aller, 3 passing touchdowns, no picks. 7th time in his career he has done that. And the Lions on top 35-3. How about Bo Pribula? 49 yards for the score as Penn State rolls to its 11th straight win over the Boilers, 49-10. Kylan Mills getting the reaction from the 9-1 Nittany Lions.
Coach, your team puts up 49 points, 500-plus yards of offense. What impressed you most about the team performance today?
Well, we played a complete game, first half and second half. I was very, very pleased with that. Defensively, we were able to get off the field tonight, put our offense in some good positions, and our offense was able to execute. So it was a little bit of a lull there in the third quarter, but overall, very pleased.
How about tight end Tyler Warren continuing to just put up video game numbers, going back to that late second quarter play? He throws the lateral pass to Drew Aller, gets it right back. How do those types of play designs come to be?
Yeah, he's a talented guy who also played quarterback in high school. His football IQ's off the charts, so it allows you to do a lot of things with him.
Tyler, your first career game with both a receiving and rushing touchdown. Why were you able to exploit this defense in that way?
Yeah, I think we just had a good plan coming into it, and I mean, I got to give credit to the teammates around me on that touchdown run. I didn't get touched by anybody, so it was blocked up well, and just, trusting our process and playing as an offense was really good today.
Well, Yogi, this is what it's supposed to look like. Penn State, you don't mess around in a game like this. What stood out to you about the Nittany Lions win?
Well, how much fun it might be to be on this team. I mean, think how creative. You saw those plays that you broke down, man. It was incredible. I think this team is peaking. Look at their last 8 quarters. It's as good as anybody in America. Yeah, I get it, the opponent and where it is. On the road this week, at home last week against a Washington team that, yes, beat Michigan, yes, beat SC. But overall, this team is not the up-and-down team that I think we saw in the first half of this season, fellas. This looks like a dominant team that is mission-minded. The standard is set. You're finding players, I think, in the first year of Andy Kotelnicki's scheme, also anticipating plays, anticipating personnel groupings. And I think we should all just anticipate Tyler Warren to do a little bit of everything every time they play the game.
And I think there's a variety of areas of Penn State that are continuing to enhance throughout the season here. Andy Kotelnicki continuing to get a better and better idea of how to set his playmakers up. Tyler Warren, of course, the immense production that's there in a wide variety of ways. A guy like Abdul Carter on the defensive front, still figuring out how to be a defensive end, not only a pass rusher, but a run stuffer in a lot of situations. Yes, he's still growing and figuring out how to hit blocks consistently, because that's a really difficult aspect of how you actually set the edge and play defensive end on a regular basis. But he's getting better. You're seeing them start to get healthier again on the defensive front also. So as a team, on the whole, the wide receiver position, if you're looking for any hole somewhere, their receiver spot isn't as deep and explosive as some of the other top teams in America. But in the end, you got a playmaker like Tyler Warren. I mean, you have plenty of explosiveness on offense.
You're right. And when you have a guy like Ty Warren, he makes up for the deficiencies that you have on the edges with the receivers and the lack of explosive plays. And also creativity manufactures those explosive plays, so you don't necessarily need that game breaker on the edge. I was really watching this offense intently and seeing how they manufactured those explosive plays, and they did it great exclusively with Ty Warren.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, to your point about Ty Warren, is that he's a front runner for the John Mackey Award that goes to the top tight end in the country, and Penn State's pushing him as the best tight end in the country. I don't know that there is a tight end that is more important to his team than Tyler Warren.
Listen, coming from a guy like myself who has been all over the field as an offensive playmaker, it is really hard, and it's special to see how high his football IQ has to be in so many different positions.
It also helped that Drew Aller had more touchdowns than incompletions. That usually is a good sign when your quarterback does that. All right, let's go check out what was going down in Los Angeles. 2 teams who had promising starts to the season enter this week desperate for a win. They made changes. Dana Holgorsen taking over as offensive coordinator for Nebraska. USC has a new quarterback. Jaden Mayava taking over for Miller Moss. It did not start well, Yogi.
No, it did not. This is not how you want to kick off the tenure as the first Polynesian quarterback to start for USC. But what I love, Dash, we call it pace. Plays after critical errors. This young man did not start great. 2 of 7 with a pick 6 that we saw, but he got rolling after that.
Sia Wright, the former Trojan, was the one who got that pick 6. He also had a blocked field goal, and then you mentioned this. How would he respond? Ensuing possession, he finds Zachariah Branch. That was his first touchdown in over a year. Second quarter, Mayava to Kyron Hudson. This is when Nebraska fans are like, this is not going to be our day, is it?
Ball goes through the hands of a defensive back. There were multiple opportunities for takeaways from the Huskers secondary. Not quite able to make that one happen.
So USC on top 14-7 third quarter. Deuce Robinson.
So impressive. He, to me, had one of his most complete games as a Trojan. This receiving core, we talked about this second-year receiving core. Would they elevate? They did today.
How about about Woody Marks? He may be the most important player on USC's roster right now. This was a giant fourth down conversion. He picks up 34. They weren't even sure if he was going to play pregame.
I call it the most critical play of their season. They decided to go for it. To your point, it leads to this. Ooh. The legs of this young quarterback showed up in a huge way. You watched him from the beginning of this game, Ash, to the very end, just find his maturity.
So Trojans up 28-20. Nebraska trying to force overtime. It's 4th and 3, and Yogi, right before this, you think they should have called a timeout?
Yeah, well, they had an opportunity. It was about $1:55 left in the game, and they get about 20 seconds tick off before they end up snapping it. They convert on the fourth down, but as the game plays out, they only have 5 seconds on the final play, Ash. Of course, they might have wanted 1 or 2 more cracks at the end zone.
So 11 seconds to go, 3rd and 10, and it's Jalen Lloyd who makes a leaping catch through contact. This was impressive.
Big time throw and catch at that critical moment in the game. Little hole shot.
So they had a pre-snap penalty that backed him up on this last play, but Raiola looking for Jamal Banks. Greedy Vance ends up with it instead. Some may say
what? That's good defense.
Can't take the jersey off.
Anthony would say that was good defense.
That is strong defense.
Debate was healthy.
Trojans finally win a close game, 28-20. Allison Williams with the winners.
What's going through your mind when you're watching that final Nebraska drive?
We were due, right? We were due. No, it was a good back and forth game. You know, we had a couple of unforced errors that obviously hurt us against a good football team here, but proud of our guys. This was a big win for the guys to come get it done. Stepped up on all 3 sides. Just a really terrific team win all around.
You knew you needed to change something up offensively, so you make the switch at quarterback. What did Jaden Mayava provide this offense?
Well, he made some plays. He made some plays with his legs. You know, he had a couple of mistakes that I'm sure he'll learn and grow from, but the guys were excited. We made some plays around him, especially the big drive there at the end when it counted.
Well, the plays around him, a lot of them came from Woody Marks. How would you describe his performance today?
Yeah, he was awesome. We didn't even know if he was going to play. He was a little dinged up, but he's been a warrior for us all day long. We're going to enjoy him for the next several games here because he's going to be a terrific pro when he's done here.
This game certainly had its ups and downs. It wasn't without adversity for you personally. What was your mentality and your mindset when that struck, and how did you respond?
Yeah, I mean, the mentality got to stay the same. The mindset has to stay the same throughout the course of the game. One thing, my teammates did a really good job picking me up. I know I have a bad habit of beating up myself on the mistakes. Obviously, there's some plays I want back, but my teammates bounced back. The defense, great stop. Yeah.
You know, I kept trying to call the guys on defense down on the sideline, saying, "Hey guys, this game's going to come down in the fourth quarter. We all know it is." You know, and it did. So, but credit to Dana, you know, to be able to come in after a week and be put in those situations, and even at the end trying to move the ball, final plays, fourth down. You know, that what I do know is that we'll only get better and better and better. I think offensively, you're just now beginning to see the genesis of what I know will happen.
We'll talk about Nebraska in a minute, 0-9 in their last 9 games in which they could have become bowl eligible. But let's talk about USC, because coming in, it was one of those things was, could they finish a game in the fourth quarter? And they finally do, Yogs.
I think a huge reason was the quarterback that Lincoln Riley was just talking about, Jaden Mayava. I mean, he started off 2 of 7, threw a pick 6 to Sierra Wright, and then he completed his next 9 balls, including 2 touchdowns, this one to Zachariah Branch. And I'll just go back to when you're a quarterback at SC, you're a household name. When you start at the Coliseum, you got a lot of pressure from guys who've won the Heisman. I thought that he handled it extremely well. I go back to that acronym that is talked about in quarterback circles across the country, which is PACE. Plays after critical errors. He referenced it. All quarterbacks have a challenging time dealing with negative plays because the care factor's through the roof. How do you flush it? How do you move on? I loved his ability to be vulnerable after the game. I thought that was really impressive. But also, even more impressive, how he actually responded, given this team and this staff the confidence, I think, to move forward as they head into a rivalry game next week against UCLA.
Yeah, Yos, you can tell that the playmakers around him are excited to play with him. And you know, like I know, when there's a quarterback change, especially at this point in time in the season, there's always going to be a spark, a sense of excitement. But that's not sustainable. What becomes sustainable is how you execute down the stretch. And one thing that I really enjoyed about watching as watching his quarterback play today was he used his feet in critical moments, in the right moments. He didn't lean on them too much, but he was very poised in the pocket, used his feet when he needed to make a play, and I really like the natural leadership capabilities that he showed today. So I think SC has really does have something optimistic to look forward to.
Well, one win away from a bowl. They've got that game against UCLA. Then they take on Notre Dame. As for Nebraska, they are still one win away from a bowl. They hired Dana Holgorsen. You heard Matt Rule alluding to him. 5 straight games with 20 or fewer points, so it didn't feel dramatically different. What did you see, Ant?
Well, you get a spark sometimes from a new quarterback or a new playmaker in the lineup, like the guys are talking about. Having a new play caller, it can be more difficult for that to manifest itself into a spark for the offense. But I do think I was impressed with the way that Dylan Raiola was able to at least run the system with a new voice. He doesn't really know Dana Holgorsen yet. He was able to function within the system. It was a little bit more lateral for Nebraska's offense. They still have to get a more consistent rushing attack going, and if they can, and Dana Holgorsen, we know his offensive system is about getting his playmakers in space. I think some growth will continue to happen.
New face, but it does feel oddly familiar for the Huskers, now 2-9 in one-possession games under Matt Rule. Michigan State and Illinois pick it up in the first quarter. Luke Altmaier looking for his favorite target, Pat Bryant, 57 yards. 4 plays of 30 yards or longer for the Illini. They're on top 7-0 early. Speaking of big plays, Aiden Childs to Isaiah Johnson here, Yogi.
Yeah, you feeling pretty good about Michigan State? Okay, we're moving the ball, some shots down the field, get our quarterback outside the pocket. But, man, they just couldn't sustain it, especially on third down.
They could not. They missed the extra point, so it's 7-6. Josh McCray had himself a big game, Marcel.
Yes. One of his big touchdowns today, uses a stiff arm as a weapon and gets in the paint.
15-6 in favor of the Illini. More from him in a bit. How about Childs? And for Nate Carter, nice patience there.
A little time in that pocket. Pass rush didn't get home.
Back to a one-score game. It's 24-16 Illini. It's Altmaier. It's Bryant.
Huge over the middle with the hands catch and finishes down the field.
How about the movement in the pocket, too, dude? That was so impressive leading to this.
It did. McCray over the top. He had 4 touchdowns all year coming in. He had 3 in this one, finishing it off right here as Illinois pulls away. They win their 6th home game of the year. It's tied for their most this century, 38-16. A good day for Brett Bielema and company.
I think this program just continues to grow. The attendance, the records, again, the way the norm, you should vote us in the top 25. You got to vote like everybody else votes their 6-3. Put our record against other people's record and see where we are, right? And I think that's a really good thing.
I like the lobbying, and by your buddy Brett Bielema there. Hey, they've still got a chance to do something they've done only 4 times ever, and that is win 10 games. I mean, this could be a special year for Illinois.
And it's been a little bit sneaky because of the depth of the Big Ten this season, and Indiana being the squad that's been on the tip of everyone's tongue all year. But between Luke Altmaier, between this run game that's had multiple backs have to lead the way for them. And of course, what Brett Bielema has been getting done is he's built this program to the point that we see them at this season. And so the depth of the Big Ten, the conversation around this conference, 4 in the top 5 coming into this thing. No one else in the top 25 but the Illini with a performance like this. We're seeing this has been one of the top teams in America.
Yeah, and the story of the day obviously was a defense on third down, but I want to talk about the run game. 138 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. When you rush the ball like that, you always give yourself a chance to win.
I want to talk about the defense, man. I hear you on the run game.
Of course
but
you
the defense, 2 of 15 on third down. And I just think you're going up against an offense that schemes up all their opponents. Jim Mahalchik is one of the best offensive line coaches in all of football. 5 sacks, 8 TFLs, and they did it a variety of ways. Like, give Illinois their credit defensively in this ball game. And I think because of that defense and that run game, they might get to those 10 wins you just described.
And give their offensive line some credit, too, because that has been a weak point, frankly, all year. They did not give up a single sack in this game. They gave up only 3 tackles for loss. They've given up the most in both of those categories in the Big Ten coming in. The Illini move on to face Rutgers next week. Michigan State has Purdue, Ashley.
Yeah, speaking of Rutgers, they were one of 4 Big Ten teams trying to become bowl eligible this weekend. They did not have Kyle Monangai last week when they beat Minnesota, but they had their star back for a trip to College Park today. Let's check it out. Billy Edwards to tie Felton early on. Felton set Maryland's single-season record for catches. He also went for over 1,000 on the season in this game. But then the Scarlet Knights just settle in. Kyle Monangai did his thing, 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rutgers put together 4 straight touchdown drives. Fourth quarter, Ethan Kaliakmanis to Daimir Miller to put this one away. 31-17.
Somebody say dime?
Yeah.
Rutgers bowl eligible for the 2nd straight season, Dave. Not bad.
Yeah, pretty impressive. They're going to play in consecutive bowl games for the first time in a decade. And you think about where they were, Yogi, going into the game a week ago, and it just felt like it was spiraling in the wrong direction. 2 straight wins here, and this one, frankly, going away. There wasn't much doubt in the fourth quarter.
I'm going there. I'm going there. Chiano, I remember from the Big East days playing against him. Now you look at how he's his team like chopping legitimately, and I go to their quarterback. My favorite word at quarterback play, I'm stealing it from Bill Walsh, is discernment. We talked about it with Ethan Kaliakmanis in training camp. We've seen it over the last 8 quarters. It's just been impressive. Putting the ball in right spots, making proper decisions, never putting his team behind the sticks, never putting them in a precarious situation by taking too big of a risk. That to me is so impressive. Then you add in Daimir Miller, you add in Ian Strong, and these receivers are elevating and making plays for this passing attack. I didn't think we'd say that sentence later on in this season. I thought it'd be all about Kyle Monangai in the run game. It's about the QB doing really impressive things.
When you say Rutgers, you think Kyle Monangai right away. The guy rolls out of bed and he's close to 100 yards already. But today, to your point, Ethan Kaliakmanis was probably the most complete game I've seen him play. He played lights out today. I was really impressed the way he delivered the ball. He had poise. It was accurate, and even on the deep ball, it was really nice. You saw the dime to Dime Adams.
And the way that Maryland, because they came into this game, they felt like, they're still on the verge of trying to become bowl eligible. Yeah. So it's a team that presents a lot of schematic challenges, but another effort for the Rutgers defense that has been growing through this stretch of the season. The second bye week, I'd say Rutgers is one of the examples of a team that having 2 bye weeks this season has really made a big difference for.
Frustrating from Maryland's point of view. They now need to win their last 2 games to make it to a bowl. It's not going to be easy. They got Iowa and Penn State. This was a year where it felt like Maryland would continue to take steps forward. It's been quite the opposite, 4-6 now for Mike Loxley's team. Our auto owners insurance game leaders taking a look at Oregon. First 3 quarters weren't so hot against the Badgers, but they outscored them by 10 in that final frame. Really, the defense was the story for Oregon. In the fourth quarter, Luke Fickell's Badgers, 4 drives, 12 plays, 0 first downs.
They played, the way we wanted them to play and we expected them to play. We just right now haven't found a way to be able to finish. The games that have come down to the fourth quarter, the games that have come down to, the most critical times, the deep waters, we still have yet to get over the hump and find a way to pull it out and to continue to, do what we need to do. And so it's tough.
And it is tough for Wisconsin, who loses 2 of their best players and almost still beat the #1 team in America. And I loved what Dan Lanning said, that they can handle critical moments because they've had to. I want to get some thoughts from the brain trust here as we look at the top 4 teams in the Big Ten who all seem to be playoff bound. And let's start with the Oregon Ducks. What do you think the committee is thinking about when they watch this film on Saturday?
Well, we're here to help you, committee. Let's start with the fact that it's such a challenge to be undefeated at any level in any sport, especially football. You get everybody's best. That is what Oregon is dealing with. How do they navigate it? It's because of their DNA traits: connection, growth, toughness, and sacrifice. As they were jumping around in that stadium, they stayed connected. You saw how they finished. It was impressive. I think they finished the rest of the way.
Penn State has been one of the most impressive teams in America all season. I guess congratulations to the SEC for playing a conference game in November. They do a couple of those on occasion, but you look at PSU's strength of record, strength of schedule amongst the best in America. I told you, I'm not too worried about the wide receiver position because they've got a tight end who's amongst the most explosive players in the country. Tyler Warren what he's accounted for in 20-plus yard plays is amongst the best in the country.
The Ohio State Buckeyes, the standard of elite college football for much of the season. They ran into the buzzsaw #1 team in the country in Oregon Ducks. But guess what? They have 2 huge games left. They have 0 holes on their roster. They play IU. They have a huge rivalry game in Michigan. They have a chance to really set the standard and show the committee what high-level college football is all about.
You know, I got a feeling there's a guy leaning back in his recliner right now. Congrats, Coach Signetti, on the 8-year extension. Looking to poke some of those holes in Ohio State. Why is Indiana one of the best teams in America? Well, not only you look at what they have done to everyone they have played, but I look at the chip on their shoulder. Offensively, only 3 players signed at Indiana coming out of high school that are now starting. Defensively, only 1. This group has an edge to them. Not just a chip because they didn't get recruited well, but an edge, and they play with it. Do they play with it this weekend coming up against the Buckeyes? We'll find out.
It's production over potential for Kurt Signetti. And yes, congratulations to the Hoosiers head coach on his big-time extension. All right.
If you go back and check the notes, right, like when we became bowl eligible, I didn't say nothing about that. I ain't going to say nothing about when we're winning season, right? It's called the expectations. And what we've tried to do since we've come here is change the expectations of what people think of this place.
Excited to focus on the next 2 weeks and hopefully the next month and a half with this group, but also evaluate everything within our program that needs to happen to consistently show up against teams like Ohio State and find ways to play winning football. We're not there. Clearly, we're not close.
I did set a career high, but it's not me. It's the guys around me. Without our offensive line playing the way they did, I wouldn't have been able to do that. You know, without Jaden playing the way he did, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Without the guys around me, you know, playing the way they did, you know, the reason I got my touchdown was because of Zach. He cleared it out.
We want to be the most improved football team in college football the rest of the year, and we're taking that mentality to heart, the way we practice, the way we prepare for each game, and sticking to our process and refining it.
Drew Aller and Penn State holding serve, as did the other 2 teams in the top 4 in the Big Ten standings that played on Saturday. As we get to the final drive, one thought on each and every team that played this weekend. And Marcel, we start you with the team that's not talking about bowl eligibility or a winning season, even though they kind of did, the Fighting Illini.
Huge win for the Fighting Illini. And I'm with Coach B. We should wake up tomorrow morning, and they should be ranked in the top 25.
We thought that Maryland had a chance. It looked like the way their season started that they were going to be bowl eligible. They ran into Rutgers today. What do you make of the Terps?
Just so many what feel like near misses, you know, where they're in the game, where they're leading the game, and then just not finding a way to maintain some excellence that shows up pretty frequently.
Michigan State, Yogi, 3rd straight loss.
Frustrating, but optimistic. They got a 1 on Friday night. Got to turn the page real quick, see if you can get a win against Purdue.
Nebraska gets a new offensive coordinator, but the same result.
Huge change on the offense last week, but it's time to get over that hump and get bowl eligible. Come on, Coach Rule.
Wisconsin, Iowa need to figure out a way to win one of those games to get into that bowl. Anthony, we heard David Braun talking about Northwestern. Good start, bad finish.
We do see schematically Northwestern, especially coming off a bye, they're finding ways to put themselves in position. Got to be able to make those plays, though. You know, the moment of truth when the ball's in flight, make sure you're the one hauling it in.
The friendly confines have not been all that friendly.
No, it's been unfriendly.
Yeah, all right. Ohio State obviously went in there and found their way today and played like the number 2 team in the country.
They kind of did everything. They hit the cycle, they had a home run, they stole a couple bases. I mean, did everything you want to do when you're in Wrigley. Just stay on that path. You'll be all right.
Well, they got Indiana coming up this week. I feel like we might talk about that game just a little bit. What about the Ducks, Marcel?
Here it is, the Ducks are the number 1 team in the country. You have a huge target on your back. You're going to get the best shot of everyone, and you got the best shot from the Wisconsin Badgers today. Guess what? Get some rest. You have a huge rivalry game against the Washington Huskies coming up in 2 weeks.
You've got a smile on your face as you say that.
You'll be watching that one.
Penn State, and
I like what the Nittany Lions are doing, but I mean, there's such a standard of expectations for Penn State, and they haven't gotten over that hump. They keep not beating Ohio State. It's one of the best teams in America, and I'm enjoying watching them play.
At Minnesota, they take on Maryland. You win those, you go to the CFP. Yep. What about Purdue, Yogi? Another tough day for them.
Yeah, look, you only get so many opportunities to compete. That's what I would say to this locker room. Like, football is not 62 games. You don't play 87. Like, you only get what is on that schedule. It's 12. So how do you finish? How do you finish? That is the challenge of the locker room.
We weren't sure how Rutgers was going to finish after they lost 4 in a row.
Yeah.
What'd you make of how they played?
You get Kyle Dungai back, you get bowl eligible, and the way you do it is showing off a shiny new passing attack. Congratulations to Rutgers.
3 Big Ten wins. That is tied for their most ever. UCLA, tough loss on Friday night.
I don't think anyone, if you go back a month ago, thought UCLA could be a team that was finding themselves in the picture of maybe making a bowl game, and yet they've been able to climb into that position. You know, they had a win streak going, hasn't continued, but they are playing a lot better football.
And coming up, the crosstown rivalry game against USC. And the Trojans are going to have to do something that they haven't done yet, which is win a true road game.
Yeah, all things are great in LA. It's 85 and sunny. USC won, and they got the rivalry game against their rivals. So congrats. They finally got one in the fourth quarter.
Funny how it works out that Marcel gets to talk about a Washington win.
Royal purple and old gold. You got a big win to get bowl eligible. And guess what? After a quick bye week, you get to play spoiler to the number one team in the country in the Oregon Ducks. Try to get it done.
Last but certainly not least, Wisconsin, who came this close to being the number one team.
The bye week seemed to do them some good. Now they have the opportunity to see if they can close out with that finishing kick, keep their streak alive.
It is time for our Saturday Standouts. Lead us off, Marcel.
The huge target for the Fighting Illini, Pat Bryant. 4 receptions, 135 yards, and the TD for the huge win. And they should wake up
in the top 25.
Come on.
Yes, I could not agree more. He was fantastic. If you're going with a pass catcher, Marcel, I am going with a pass rusher. Mateo Uiagalelei had 5 tackles in the game, had a sack, and a game-clinching interception. Are you serious? With no Jordan Burch on the field, Uiagalelei took this game over.
Is there a better number 3 receiver in all of America than Carnell Tate? The kid from Chicago comes home, scores 2 touchdowns at Wrigley. Buckeye fans know his story. He lost his mom last year. Today, he had over 30 family and friends cheering him on. Ryan Day with the best quote after the game. He said, "The game doesn't care what you've been through, but we do, and his teammates do."
How about Jaden Mayava, starting quarterback for the USC Trojans, starts 2 of 7, throws a pick 6, completes his next 9 balls, 2 touchdowns, also ran for 1. Impressive.
I am going with Tyler Warren. 8 catches, 127 yards. His first career game with a rushing TD and a receiving TD. He has 16 career receiving touchdowns now. He ties Pat Freiermuth for the most ever for a Penn State tight end. He is one to watch. And Yogi is no longer one to watch with us because this is his last final drive of the year. He's going to be in the booth calling games.
Do you have any final words?
Well, look, I watch every final drive. I'm a huge fan. I'm glad that you've cleaned up, your lifestyle, vegetarian, good decision. But all of you, I can't wait to see you again soon. Lots of love. Thanks for joining.
Yogi's a vegetarian.
See ya.
Deuces. Peace out. All right, we will see you next week.
Take care. Leaving us.